At the far end of Earth, a frozen continent waits in silence. 6 months of darkness are ending. The sun is returning. And with that light, life is preparing to explode. This is the Antarctic summer, the shortest and most intense season on Earth. The sun does not set for many continuous weeks. Every creature uses every precious hour of light. The Southern Ocean surrounds this continent like a vast ecological ring. Cold currents lift nutrients from the deep ocean to the surface. That is what creates one of the richest marine environments on Earth. As temperatures rise slightly, the sea ice begins to retreat. Millions of square kilometers of open water are released within weeks. This is the opening signal for a vast food chain. Sunlight penetrates the cold water and triggers an explosion of phytoplankton. They are too small for the human eye to see, yet their numbers reach into the trillions. They form the foundation that feeds the entire ocean. From space, the bloom looks like green clouds drifting beneath the sea. A single bloom can cover an area the size of an entire country. The Southern Ocean is breathing and awakening. Phytoplankton draws in krill, tiny creatures only a few centimeters long. Yet they appear in unimaginable numbers, reaching 500 million tons across the Southern Ocean. Krill is the heartbeat of this ecosystem. Each krill weighs less than 2 grams, no bigger than a child's little finger. Yet they gather in swarms so dense they can redden entire stretches of sea. Without krill, Antarctica would become an ocean desert. Krill swarms migrate vertically each day, rising to feed on algae at night and descending to escape predators by day. This journey is repeated millions of times every hour. They are among the greatest biological forces on Earth. They come from thousands of kilometers away, the largest animals ever to live on this planet. Blue whales can weigh more than 150 tons and stretch longer than 2 buses placed end to end. Antarctica is the feast they cross oceans to reach. Each day, an adult blue whale can swallow up to 40 million krill. Its mouth opens like a cavern, straining water through thick baleen plates. It is one of the most efficient feeding systems in the animal kingdom. This natural filter evolved over 30 million years. No teeth, no chewing, only filtering and swallowing. With every gulp, millions of tiny lives disappear. Humpback whales arrive in Antarctica with a remarkable hunting secret. They cooperate in groups, rare for animals that often live apart. Each individual takes a separate role in the encircling attack. Bubble net feeding is one of nature's most complex hunting behaviors. A lead whale circles beneath the swarm, blowing bubbles to build a wall of air. Krill panic and bunch together, and that is when the whales strike. The final strike happens in less than 2 seconds. Yet each surge upward captures thousands of krill. This perfect coordination is the collective intelligence of whales. Those long white fins resemble wings of a creature flying underwater. Humpback whales are among the farthest migrating marine mammals, traveling up to 8,000 kilometers each way. Antarctica is the final destination in their search for life. An Adelie penguin colony can hold 500,000 birds. They return to the same rocky nesting grounds year after year. Their calls rise like a city waking to life. Male Adelies offer pebbles to mates as a form of courtship. A pebble nest keeps eggs above the cold, wet ground. Every stone is valuable property, and sometimes stolen from neighboring nests. Underwater, penguins transform completely, no longer clumsy on land. They can swim at 25 kilometers per hour and dive to 150 meters. Wings no longer used for flight become perfect paddles of the sea. The chinstrap penguin is named for the black line beneath its chin like a helmet strap. They are among the noisiest Antarctic penguins. Their colonies can reach millions, strange megacities of birds. Penguin feathers are waterproof, trapping air like thermal armor. Water at -2 degrees Celsius cannot penetrate this natural defense. Beneath the surface, they move like black and white bullets. The emperor penguin is the largest penguin, nearly 1.2 meters tall and weighing up to 40 kilograms. Its orange-yellow chest and neck markings are unmistakable. It is a living symbol of endurance in extreme conditions. Emperor chicks hatch in the brutal winter, not in summer. They are kept warm on their father's feet through the first months of life. Outside may be -60 degrees Celsius, while inside the brood pouch it is +36. Once large enough, emperor chicks gather into nursery groups called creches to stay warm together. Parents return from the sea and identify their own chick by its unique call. Each chick has a voice print as distinct as a fingerprint. The leopard seal is one of Antarctica's apex predators, weighing up to 500 kilograms. Its name comes from the dark spots scattered across its silver-gray coat. Beneath the ice, it waits like a living trap. The moment a penguin enters the water, the leopard seal strikes. Its reaction is faster than the blink of an eye, reaching speeds of 40 kilometers per hour. Its success rate during pursuit is remarkably high. Despite the name, the crab-eater seal does not eat crabs. It feeds on krill and is among the greatest krill consumers in the ocean. Its teeth evolved into a perfect filtering tool, like miniature whale baleen. When the crab-eater closes its jaws, water escapes while krill remain trapped inside. It is one of the strangest dental structures in the animal kingdom. Independent evolution created a solution similar to whales, but in its own way. The Weddell seal can hold its breath for 80 minutes and dive 600 meters deep. It uses its teeth to maintain breathing holes in the ice throughout winter. It is one of the southernmost marine mammals living year-round near Antarctica. The wandering albatross can travel thousands of kilometers without landing. It harvests the wind, rising and falling in long glides, turning storms into energy. The Southern Ocean, with its fierce winds, is paradise for this bird. As the sun begins to set, it will not rise again for many months. Temperatures fall below -40 degrees Celsius, with winds reaching 200 kilometers per hour. Antarctica enters winter, the harshest long night on Earth. In winter, sea ice expands by another 19 million square kilometers each year. That is nearly twice the size of the Antarctic continent itself. It is one of the greatest physical transformations on the planet. In blizzards, male emperor penguins incubate eggs with no food. They rotate slowly through the crowd so every bird gets a turn in the warm center. This behavior is not taught. It is an instinct shaped by millions of years of evolution. In the darkness of winter, the sky answers with the southern lights. These dancing ribbons are charged particles from the sun colliding with the atmosphere. For penguins below, it is the only light in the long night. Beneath the ice, the world is entirely different from the frozen surface above. Water remains near -1.8 degrees Celsius, cold but survivable. Weddell seals move through this realm as if inside a vast cathedral of ice. Life does not stop in winter, it simply moves deeper. On the Antarctic seafloor, vividly colored creatures survive at -2 degrees Celsius. Evolution here is slow, yet stranger and more unique than anywhere else. During the 65 days of incubation, the male eats nothing at all. He survives on stored fat, losing several kilograms each week. It is the longest fasting feat of any bird on Earth. The Larsen Sea ice shelf fractured in 2017, releasing an iceberg larger than Belgium. Antarctic temperatures are rising 3 times faster than the global average. What took thousands of years to form is now disappearing within decades. The sound of collapsing ice shelves can travel for tens of kilometers. Each event may raise global sea levels by a few millimeters. Small numbers, but together they build into disaster for millions of people. Many Adelie penguin colonies on the Antarctic Peninsula have declined by up to 70%. Ice melts faster than they can adapt, flooding nests before eggs hatch. The food web is also disrupted as krill decline with weakening phytoplankton blooms. commercial harvesting of krill has risen sharply over recent decades. Krill is used for animal feed and omega-3 extraction. But removing too much krill means removing the foundation of the entire ecosystem. Whales grow thinner as krill supplies decline, with body fat reserves dropping sharply compared with 20 years ago. They must travel farther and spend more energy to feed. Blue whales once came close to extinction, and that danger has never fully disappeared. Scientists drill deep into Antarctic ice to read 800,000 years of climate history. Each layer preserves the memory of an ancient atmosphere. And for the first time in that entire record, CO2 has risen beyond 420 ppm. Antarctica has warmed by 3 degrees Celsius since the 1950s. A small number, yet for this fragile ecosystem it marks the difference between survival and disappearance. A tipping point is approaching, and no one knows exactly when it will be crossed. These eyes know nothing of emissions or policy. They know only the need for food, warmth, and a patch of ice to stand on. Yet even these simple needs are threatened by choices made on the other side of Earth. Blue whales were hunted to the edge of extinction, with 99% of their population killed in the 20th century. Then humanity stopped, and they began to recover. It is proof that nature can heal when given the chance. In 2016, 24 nations agreed to create the world's largest marine protected area in Antarctica. More than 1.5 million square kilometers were shielded from commercial fishing. It remains one of humanity's greatest conservation victories. Krill are tiny, yet they help the whole planet breathe. Through photosynthesis and the food web, the Southern Ocean absorbs nearly 40% of global CO2. Protecting krill means protecting our own climate system. Antarctica does not need humanity to survive. But humanity needs Antarctica to regulate climate, stabilize sea levels, and preserve biodiversity. We and this frozen continent are bound together. The sun will set and winter will return. But the real question is this: when the sun rises next year, will the world below still be the same? Antarctica's future is not written here, it is written by the choices we make today. From space, Earth glows with the lights of human civilization. But behind those lights lies an invisible network, flows of energy that sustain the world. And all of it converges on a single, small point on the map. This is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow stretch of water less than 50 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, it is the only gateway from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. Without it, much of the world's oil cannot reach its destination. Every day, around 20 million barrels of oil, about 20% of global supply, pass through these waters. This is not just a statistic. It fuels cars, planes, power plants, powers the lives of billions. On the surface, Hormuz appears calm and peaceful. Still waters, open skies. Yet beneath that calm lies the weight of the global economy flowing through it every hour. On the horizon, massive ships line up like floating buildings. Each one longer than 3 football fields, carrying hundreds of thousands of tons of crude oil. They arrive and depart endlessly, never stopping. Japan, South Korea, India, and China, the largest economies in Asia, all depend on oil passing through Hormuz. If the strait were to close for even a week, global supply chains would fall into immediate chaos. But Hormuz is more than data and maps. It is home to thousands of people, fishermen, traders, families who have lived along these shores for generations. For them, the sea is not a shipping route. It is life itself. Beneath the strait lies an entirely different world: coral, fish, and marine life that existed long before humans discovered oil. And they are still there, living in silence beneath the massive ships above. These massive oil tankers are known as VLCCs, very large crude carriers. A single vessel can carry up to 320,000 tons of crude oil, enough to power a city of millions for months. Navigating through Hormuz is far from simple. Shipping lanes are tightly controlled, each only about 3 kilometers wide. A small mistake in darkness or fog could lead to an unpredictable disaster. More than 17,000 ships pass through Hormuz each year, nearly 50 per day. In such a narrow space, managing traffic requires near-perfect coordination between nations. The risk of oil spills is ever present. When accidents happen, oil can spread across tens of square kilometers within hours. Ecosystems may take decades to recover. After every spill, people bear the consequences. Fishermen lose their livelihoods, cleanup crews work tirelessly, and marine life often has no chance of rescue. An invisible threat is underwater noise. Ship engines generate powerful sound, disrupting how dolphins and whales communicate and navigate. Beyond oil spills, ships emit large amounts of CO2 and sulfur. Global shipping accounts for about 2.5% of emissions, and Hormuz is one of the most concentrated points on Earth. Beyond economics, there is a geopolitical dimension. Hormuz is a zone of tension where multiple powers, including the United States, Iran, and Gulf nations maintain military presence. Every diplomatic conflict carries real risks for maritime safety. Even a single news report about tension in Hormuz can move global oil prices. In 2019, attacks on tankers near the strait caused prices to spike within hours, affecting fuel costs worldwide. At night, Hormuz never sleeps. Ships glow like moving islands across the dark water, never stopping. Because the world's demand for energy never stops. But look beneath the surface. Near Hengam Island, not far from major oil shipping routes, an entirely different world exists. Colorful corals, parrotfish, butterfly fish, a vibrant reef thriving in one of the most strategic seas on Earth. Dolphins still swim freely here, a beautiful yet heartbreaking sight beside massive oil tankers. Unaware, they live in one of the most polluted and dangerous marine environments on the planet. Sea turtles still return here to nest on white sandy beaches. They have survived millions of years of evolution. But now, they must adapt to an ocean changing faster than ever before. Scientists are monitoring every rise in sea temperature. The Persian Gulf is already one of the hottest marine regions on Earth, and it continues to warm. Coral bleaching occurs when waters become too warm, causing corals to lose their color and slowly die. When corals disappear, entire ecosystems that depend on them collapse. Less visible than coral reefs, but equally important, are seagrass meadows, breeding grounds for hundreds of fish species. They absorb carbon more efficiently than forests, yet they are rapidly disappearing. Dugongs once thrived in these waters, feeding on seagrass. Today, their numbers have declined drastically. As seagrass disappears, so do they. Seabirds still return, but fish are becoming scarce. Nature adapts, but only within limits. Everything is connected. When plankton shifts, the entire food chain is affected, from small fish to humans. On one side, a scientist studying fragile ecosystems. On the other, a massive oil tanker. Two worlds, two priorities sharing the same sea. Ahmed has fished these waters for over 40 years. His hands are rough, his eyes trained on the horizon. He knows the sea like the back of his hand, its currents, its winds, its changing seasons. But the sea he knows is changing. Massive oil tankers create waves that can overturn small boats. Engine noise drives fish away. And sometimes, thin oil slicks drift across the surface, signs of incidents never reported. Fish catches have dropped significantly compared to 20 years ago. Fishermen must travel farther, stay longer at sea, and return with far less. Every evening, women and children wait on the shore for boats to return. The sea sustains them, but it can also take everything. Every journey is a gamble. The younger generation stands at a crossroads. Fishing no longer provides enough to support a family. Many have left the trade, seeking work in industrial zones or moving to cities. A centuries-old tradition is slowly fading. This is not the first time Ahmed has pulled up nets coated in oil. They must be cleaned for hours, sometimes thrown away. The loss is real, yet no one is held accountable. From above, the village appears almost invisible beside massive passing tankers. A stark image of imbalance between local communities and global energy systems. For fishermen, the sea is not a resource or a route. It is a relationship, a long-standing bond between people and nature. And that bond is slowly being broken. Imagine the global energy and trade network as a complex circulatory system. In that system, Hormuz is the valve where all flows must pass. If that valve shuts, the entire system stops. Thousands of kilometers away, trading floors in New York, London, and Singapore react instantly to events in Hormuz. Financial markets and this distant sea beat in the same rhythm. For Gulf nations such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq, Hormuz is a lifeline. It is the only route to export oil, the foundation of their entire economies. Alternative routes exist, such as pipelines across the desert. But their combined capacity handles only a fraction of the flow. There is no true replacement for Hormuz. This is why Hormuz is always present in international negotiations. Every energy agreement, every nuclear talk with Iran, every military arrangement carries its shadow. The question grows louder: can the world reduce its dependence on Hormuz? Renewable energy is rising, but oil still dominates. The transition is happening, but far slower than needed. narrow stretch of sea carries the weight of modern civilization. It is both a triumph and a vulnerability of our world. This is the defining contradiction of our time. We need energy to build civilization, yet extracting and transporting it is slowly destroying the natural foundation we depend on. Nowhere is this more visible than in Hormuz. Three people, three perspectives on the same sea. A fisherman sees his livelihood fading. A scientist sees ecosystems declining. A ship captain sees an essential lifeline. All of them are right, and that is the problem. Sometimes, in rare moments, the sea returns to its natural state, quiet, vast, and free. No engines, no smoke. And in that silence, it feels like the ocean is trying to remind us of something. Hormuz is more than a place. It is a question of values, economic growth versus planetary sustainability. We may avoid the question, but we cannot escape its consequences. The sun sets over the Strait of Hormuz. Ships keep moving. The sea remains, sustaining the world while being pushed to its limits. The question is not whether we can protect the ocean, but whether we will choose to before it is too late. On the world map, there is a narrow strip of water less than 33 kilometers wide, so small it is easy to overlook. Yet every day, 30% of the world's oil passes through here. It is called the lifeline of civilization. Every day, around 21 million barrels of oil silently pass through here, carried by massive tankers longer than 3 football fields. They come from the oil fields of Arabia and travel to every corner of the world. There is no alternative route. The Strait of Hormuz lies between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, a single gateway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean. Its full width is 33 kilometers, but the actual shipping lanes are only about 3 kilometers each way. It is one of the most closely monitored geographic spaces on Earth. Thousands of years ago, Arab traders sailed these waters, carrying spices, pearls, and silk to India. Hormuz was once an independent trading empire where sea routes converged. Its role has changed, but its importance has never diminished. The human body can survive weeks without food and days without water, but only minutes without breathing. The global economy is the same. It can endure many shocks, but it cannot survive if Hormuz is closed. That is why this place is called the throat of the world. "21 million barrels of oil. That is what the Strait of Hormuz must digest every single day. If poured into Olympic swimming pools, it would fill over 30,000 of them. No other oil transit route on Earth comes close to this scale. China is the world's largest oil importer, and much of it must pass through Hormuz. Every factory running, every car moving, every building being heated in China is tied to this narrow stretch of water. It is a geographic dependency Beijing has never been comfortable with. Japan imports over 90% of its oil through Hormuz. With no significant domestic energy and no pipeline alternatives, it relies entirely on tankers and a single strait. South Korea faces a similar reality. For both nations, Hormuz is not a choice, it is geographic destiny. If supply through Hormuz is disrupted for just a few days, global oil prices could surge by tens of percent within 24 hours. And when oil rises, everything rises: transport, manufacturing, food, electricity. The global supply chain tightens like a body cut off from its blood flow. We often think of oil as fuel for cars or planes. But it is also the foundation of plastics, fertilizers, pesticides, paints, synthetic fabrics, and thousands of other products. Half the items in the room you are in contain petroleum derivatives. Hormuz doesn't just carry fuel, it carries modern industry itself. India, one of the fastest-growing economies in the world, is also increasing its dependence on Gulf oil. The Jamnagar refinery processes over 1 million barrels a day, most of it arriving through Hormuz. The prosperity of hundreds of millions of Indians is anchored to a strait thousands of nautical miles from Mumbai. The northern shore of the strait belongs to Iran, the country that controls much of this strategic waterway. From here, every passing vessel is within sight, radar range, and if necessary, missile range of Tehran. It is one of the rare geographic advantages Iran holds in the global geopolitical game. Along Iran's coastline, anti-ship missiles like Noor and Khalij-Fars are positioned on rugged mountain terrain. They can strike targets hundreds of kilometers away, and within the narrow confines of Hormuz, no vessel can escape their range. This is asymmetric warfare, low cost, high destructive impact. Iran does not rely only on exposed weapons. Inside coastal mountain ranges, underground bases carved into rockhouse fast boats, missiles, and command centers. Satellite imagery cannot fully reveal them. Conventional bombs cannot easily penetrate them. This is a hidden card Iran holds, and its adversaries know it well. A $13 billion U.S. aircraft carrier can be overwhelmed by hundreds of small speedboats worth only tens of thousands each. This is the swarm tactic Iran has practiced for decades, attacking simultaneously from all directions with speed and overwhelming numbers. In the narrow waters of Hormuz, traditional technological superiority becomes ineffective. Beneath the strait, where no human eye can see, Iran could deploy thousands of naval mines within hours. A single mine can tear open the hull of a supertanker. And once a few ships are damaged or sunk, the entire route can be shut down, not by force but by fear. It is one of the most effective psychological weapons in Hormuz. In response, the United States Navy maintains a constant military presence in the Gulf and the Strait. The Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, patrols 24/7, with ships, radar, and satellites tracking every movement. It is a never-ending mutual surveillance, and both sides know a single mistake could trigger disaster. What sounds like a hypothesis has already happened multiple times. In 2019, several oil tankers were attacked near Hormuz, their hulls breached and crews thrown into panic. Oil prices spiked instantly, and global financial markets trembled. Just a few attacks without full-scale war were enough to trigger worldwide economic anxiety. In summer, temperatures in Hormuz can exceed 50 degrees Celsius. The sea becomes a mirror reflecting intense heat, and metal surfaces on ships can burn skin on contact. Crews work in conditions nearly beyond human tolerance, while electronic systems frequently fail under extreme temperatures. From the Arabian Desert, massive sandstorms regularly sweep into the strait, reducing visibility from kilometers to zero within minutes. Navigating a 330-meter-long tanker through a 3-kilometer channel without sight is a challenge captains must face. Radar becomes the only eye, yet even it can be disrupted in the storm. Hundreds of oil tankers operating simultaneously, burning low-grade heavy fuel, create a persistent haze over the strait. Combined with high humidity from the sea and desert sand, the air becomes dense and hazardous. It is one of the most polluted marine regions on the planet. A supertanker requires 3 to 5 kilometers to come to a full stop. In Hormuz's narrow 3-kilometer shipping lane, that means there is no margin for error. Captains must make split-second decisions, relying on years of experience and nerves of steel. A single collision could sink hundreds of millions of dollars and trigger a devastating oil spill in these confined waters. At the gateway of the strait, Hormuz Island appears like a work of art from above. Vivid red soil rich in iron oxide, interwoven with streaks of white, yellow, purple, and orange. It is known as the Rainbow Island. Beneath these extraordinary colors lies a history of thousands of years, when this region was once a global trade hub. The people of Hormuz do something few places in the world can claim. They eat the earth. This red soil, rich in iron oxide and minerals known as galak, is mixed into bread, used as a seasoning, or even eaten on its own. It is not poverty, but a unique culinary tradition deeply connected to the island's unusual geology. Every morning, fishermen set out to sea on small wooden boats, following traditions passed down for centuries. And every morning, they share the water with steel giants over 300 meters long, carrying oil for the global economy. Two worlds could not be more different, yet they coexist on the same narrow stretch of water. Bandar Abbas, a city of 500,000 on the northern shore, exists because of Hormuz and lives through it. Its port is Iran's main trade gateway, where goods from around the world arrive and Iranian oil flows out. For the people here, geopolitics is not abstract. It is their jobs, their income, and their daily lives. As the sun sets behind anchored oil tankers, Hormuz reveals a breathtaking beauty: red, orange, and purple blending across the calm sea. It is a moment where grandeur and fragility coexist. The pure beauty of nature, and beneath it, the ever-present tension of geopolitics. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have built pipelines across the desert to reduce dependence on Hormuz. But their total capacity can only handle about 20% of the required oil flow. The remaining 80% has no route except the strait. And building more pipelines? It would cost hundreds of billions of dollars, take decades, and face nearly insurmountable terrain challenges. In theory, tankers could reroute around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. But that would add thousands of nautical miles, weeks of travel, and dramatically higher costs. Oil prices would rise 10 to 15% from transport alone, and the world would need twice as many tankers. It is not impossible, just too expensive to be practical. The world is transitioning toward renewable energy, but far more slowly than headlines suggest. Oil will still dominate global energy at least until the mid-21st century. During this transition, Hormuz remains irreplaceable. Dependency does not disappear overnight, it fades gradually over decades. Experts have modeled a scenario where Hormuz is closed for just 48 hours. Within the first 6 hours, global financial markets begin to tremble. By hour 24, oil prices could exceed $200 per barrel. By 48 hours, some Asian governments may convene emergency cabinets. No war is needed, just 2 days of closure. Globalization has created unprecedented prosperity, but it has also created critical vulnerabilities. Hormuz is the clearest example. A $100 trillion global economy depends on a narrow 33-kilometer strip of water. That is not strength, it is fragility dressed as prosperity. Every oil tanker that passes safely through Hormuz is the result of a delicate balance between Iran and the United States, between Saudi Arabia and its neighbors, between geopolitical calculations and economic interests. Peace here is not luck. It is the product of constant restraint, day after day. And that restraint can break at any moment. Modern civilization is built on energy, and that energy must pass through Hormuz. We have created megacities, global supply chains, and complex transport networks, all relying on the uninterrupted flow through a strait narrower than a single city. It is one of the greatest contradictions of our time. Every morning, Hormuz awakens and continues its work, quiet, unseen, yet indispensable. As long as the world needs oil and economies remain interconnected, this strait will remain a crossroads of destinies. A narrow 33-kilometer strip of water, small on the map, yet carrying the weight of an entire civilization. The Atlantic Ocean, the second largest ocean on this planet, stretches across more than 106 million square kilometers. It is not only a vast body of water, but also the beating heart that regulates Earth's climate. Every living thing on land is touched in some way by its breath. Beneath the surface, colossal currents flow like invisible rivers. The Gulf Stream carries warmth from the tropics northward, heating the continent of Europe from thousands of kilometers away. It is one of the greatest climate engines Earth has ever created. From above, the Atlantic appears calm and endless. But beneath lies a living world that never truly sleeps. Millions of creatures are moving, hunting, and struggling to survive right now at this very moment. Every layer of water, every depth, forms its own ecosystem. From vast silver clouds of fish near the surface to strange creatures living without light in the abyss, the diversity here surpasses human imagination. The floor of the Atlantic hides mountains taller than the Alps and trenches deeper than Mount Everest. The mid-Atlantic ridge runs through the ocean like the spine of the planet. This majestic terrain shapes all life above it. The Atlantic is the birthplace of some of the most violent storms on Earth. Heat energy from warm water transforms into destructive power. Yet that same energy also sustains millions of creatures that depend on the ocean's motion. The humpback whale, a creature weighing up to 40 tons, can still launch itself clear above the sea in a breathtaking display. Each year, it migrates more than 8,000 kilometers, from warm tropical waters to the food-rich cold seas of the far north. It is one of the longest journeys made by any mammal on Earth. Humpback whales are brilliant strategists. Working together, they release giant rings of bubbles to trap schools of fish into a dense mass. Then the group surges upward from below, mouths wide open, swallowing tons of fish and water in a single strike. The song of the humpback whale is among the most complex sounds in nature. Males may sing continuously for up to 20 hours, their voices traveling thousands of kilometers through the sea. Each population has its own dialect, and the songs slowly evolve each year like a living culture. The warm waters of the Caribbean are where humpback whales give birth and raise their young. A newborn calf may already weigh 1 ton and drink hundreds of liters of milk each day. During the first months of motherhood, the female does not feed, devoting all her energy to her calf. The sperm whale is the undisputed deep-diving champion of the ocean. With its giant head housing one of the most advanced sonar systems on Earth, it can dive deeper than 3,000 meters. Their pressure is nearly 300 times greater than at the surface, yet it hunts with ease. Kilometers below the surface, in total darkness, sperm whales confront giant squid. These legendary battles may last for hours, yet no human has ever witnessed one directly. The only evidence is the massive sucker scars left on the whales when they return to the surface. The great white shark is an icon of ocean power. It can migrate more than 20,000 kilometers each year, crossing the full width of the Atlantic and returning to the exact point where it began. By sensing Earth's magnetic field, it navigates with the precision of a living compass. On the snout of the great white shark are thousands of electroreceptors called ampullae of Lorenzini. They can detect electric fields billions of times weaker than what humans could sense. Even when prey is buried beneath the sand, the shark can pinpoint its location by sensing the victim's heartbeat. Bluefin tuna are the marathon racers of the sea. They can swim at speeds of 70 kilometers per hour and sustain powerful movement for thousands of kilometers. Each year, they cross the Atlantic to spawn in the Mediterranean, then return to the rich feeding grounds of the Western Ocean. Bluefin tuna possess a rare ability among fish. They can keep their body temperature up to 20 degrees Celsius warmer than the surrounding water. Their heat exchange system works like an internal furnace. This allows their muscles to perform at maximum power in waters of any temperature. Leatherback sea turtles are tireless long-distance travelers. They migrate from the shores of the Americas to Africa in search of food, completing round trips of more than 16,000 kilometers each year. After decades away, females still return to the very beach where they were born to lay eggs. Manta rays look like giant flying carpets gliding through the sea. Though their wingspan can reach 7 meters and they weigh several tons, they feed only on tiny plankton. They are among the most intelligent ocean creatures and can recognize themselves in a mirror, a rare trait in the animal kingdom. Atlantic salmon undertake one of nature's most tragic and heroic journeys. They spend years at sea, then return to the exact river where they were born to spawn and die. They leap waterfalls, battle raging currents, and stop eating entirely, all to fulfill the final purpose of their lives. The Sargasso Sea, in the heart of the Atlantic, is the only sea on Earth with no shores, bounded entirely by ocean currents. European and American eels both swim here from opposite sides of the ocean to spawn and die. Their young then begin the long journey back to continents their parents never knew. Atlantic creatures do not move at random. They read the ocean the way humans read maps. Water temperature, current direction, salinity, and light are invisible but precise signals that species have learned to decode through millions of years of evolution. The call of a blue whale can reach 188 decibels, louder than a jet engine. This sound travels thousands of kilometers through the ocean by means of a special water layer known as the Sofar Channel. Two whales on opposite sides of the Atlantic may still hear and communicate with one another. Dolphins do far more than swim. They are playful, curious, and remarkably intelligent. Their sonar is so precise that it can detect an object the size of a coin from 100 meters away in total darkness. Each dolphin has its own signature name that other members of the pod instantly recognize. Octopuses are the masters of camouflage. In less than a second, they can change color, patterns, and even skin texture to blend perfectly into their surroundings. Strangely, octopuses are colorblind, yet they still camouflage flawlessly. Science has not fully solved this mystery. The bait ball is one of the most dramatic spectacles in the ocean. Millions of small fish pack tightly into a spinning sphere for protection. From above, birds dive down. From below, large fish and dolphins attack. From the sides, sharks slice through. It is a perfect siege from every direction. Horseshoe crabs have existed for 450 million years, older than the dinosaurs. Every year, during the full moon nights of May, millions crawl onto Atlantic beaches to breed. It is one of the largest and most ancient mass migrations still surviving on this planet. Swordfish can warm their brains and eyes to see more clearly in cold, deep water, an extraordinary adaptation that helps them hunt efficiently across many depths. They can reach speeds of 100 kilometers per hour in short bursts, making them one of the fastest marine animals on Earth. Each night, the sea becomes an upside-down sky of stars. Trillions of bioluminescent plankton illuminate the ocean from within. This phenomenon is not only beautiful, their living light is also a language for communication, warning predators, and attracting mates in the darkness below. Atlantic coral reefs are miniature cities beneath the sea. Though they cover only 0.1% of the ocean floor, they shelter more than 25% of all marine fish species. Every reef is a complex living network where each species plays an irreplaceable role in the ecosystem. The largest creature is not always the most powerful. The lionfish is small, yet armed with deadly venomous spines and bright fins like warning flags to the sea. It does not need to flee or hide. It stands proudly still and lets the entire ocean know, never come too close. Below 200 meters, sunlight disappears completely. Temperatures fall close to freezing. Pressure becomes strong enough to crush a truck. This is the gateway to another world, the dark deep sea that makes up nearly 95% of the volume of Earth's oceans. Deep-sea anglerfish carry a living lantern above their heads, a glowing organ powered by symbiotic bacteria. In total darkness, this tiny light becomes the perfect trap. Curious prey swims toward the glow and straight into a mouth of long, waiting teeth. Atlantic giant squid can grow up to 13 meters long, larger than a city bus. Their eyes, as wide as dinner plates, are the largest in the animal kingdom. In the deep darkness, those remarkable eyes can detect the faintest light from distant predators. In the dark, deep sea, food falls from the sky, an underwater sky. Marine snow is made of endless organic fragments, dead creatures, waste, and shed scales drifting down from above. It is the main source of energy for the deep ecosystem, a constant rain of nutrients that never stops. Deep-sea dragonfish look like monsters from science fiction, yet their bodies are only a few dozen centimeters long. Their transparent fangs are so large the mouth cannot fully close. Rows of glowing lights along the body flash to communicate or lure prey, like a living spacecraft shining through the dark. The Dumbo octopus lives at depths of up to 7,000 meters, making it the deepest living octopus known to science. It swims by gently flapping ear-like fins, gliding through the darkness like a ghost. Under immense pressure, its body does not collapse because it contains no hollow air spaces. Newly hatched sea turtles begin their journey alone into the ocean, with no guide and no map. They navigate using Earth's magnetic field and warm currents, living among drifting seaweed mats like floating lifeboats. These are the most mysterious years of a turtle's life, known to science as the lost years. Despite its name, the vampire squid is neither a true squid nor an octopus, but a separate evolutionary lineage that has existed for 300 million years. When threatened, it turns itself inside out, covering its body with sharp spines like armor, a defense strategy unlike anything else in nature. Deep-sea glass shrimp solve camouflage in the most extreme way possible, by becoming completely transparent. Their bodies are like glass, allowing light to pass through without reflection, so predators see only the ocean beyond. Their red organs are the only visible part, but at depth red light disappears, making them effectively invisible. Humanity reached the moon before fully exploring the seafloor of its own planet. Even today, only a little over 20% of the ocean floor has been mapped in detail. Every deep dive reveals new discoveries, creatures never before named, living in a world utterly foreign to us. On the floor of the Atlantic, where not a single photon of sunlight can reach, vibrant oases of life still exist. Hydrothermal vents blast water as hot as 400 degrees from deep within Earth. These are ecosystems that do not depend on the sun. They run on energy from the planet's interior. Giant tube worms, reaching up to 2 meters long, survive entirely through chemosynthetic bacteria living inside their bodies. They have no mouth, no stomach, and no digestive system. Instead, the bacteria convert vent chemicals into food and sustain their host, a perfect alliance between two forms of life. The Yeti crab looks like a creature from legend, with claws covered in white fur. In reality, those are long filaments that host chemosynthetic bacteria. The crab waves its arms and vent water to grow the bacteria, then feeds on them, a perfect self-sustaining farm carried on its own hands. Hydrothermal vents reveal something once thought impossible. Life does not necessarily need sunlight. Their discovery in 1977 transformed humanity's understanding of the limits of life. Today, scientists are searching for similar vents beneath the ice of Europa, a moon of Jupiter. The ocean is absorbing more than 90% of the excess heat caused by climate change. Warmer waters push food sources toward the poles, forcing entire migration chains to adapt. Species that fail to adjust will arrive at old feeding grounds and find nothing waiting for them. A rise of just 1 degree Celsius can cause corals to expel their symbiotic algae and turn ghostly white, a phenomenon known as coral bleaching. Without algae, corals cannot photosynthesize and slowly die. In recent decades, more than half of Atlantic coral reefs have disappeared. When coral dies, an entire city of marine life collapses with it. Every year, hundreds of thousands of large marine animals die after becoming trapped in abandoned fishing nets. known as ghost nets, lost or discarded traps drifting endlessly through the sea. They continue killing for decades. Whales, sea turtles, and sharks are all vulnerable to these invisible snares. More than 8 million tons of plastic enter the ocean each year. Sunlight breaks it down into microscopic particles called microplastics, smaller than grains of sand. These particles enter the food chain from plankton to fish to whales and eventually onto our own plates. The ocean is returning what we threw into it. Yet across the Atlantic, people are fighting to protect it. Scientists attach satellite tags to whales to understand their migrations. That data is shaping conservation policy, creating no-fishing zones, and forcing ships to change course to avoid whale collisions. The Atlantic has existed for hundreds of millions of years and has witnessed the greatest mass extinctions in the history of life. It recovered each time. But the speed of change today is unlike anything in geological history. The future of this ocean, and every extraordinary creature within it, depends on the choices our generation makes right now. At the very top of the Earth lies a place few humans have ever set foot on. A realm of cold, vastness, and mystery. Sealed beneath ice for millions of years. This is the Arctic, one of the last untouched frontiers of our planet. From a distance, the Arctic appears empty. No people, no sound. But this is only an illusion. Beneath the silence lies a world of astonishing life. A complex ecosystem moving to its own rhythm, relentless and unbroken. Ice here is more than frozen water. It is a living force, shifting, expanding, and constantly transforming. Winter temperatures fall to -40 degrees, cold enough to freeze breath in the air. And yet, life still finds a way to survive and grow. Time in the Arctic does not move as it does elsewhere on Earth. Winter stretches into months of complete darkness, without a single ray of sunlight. Then summer arrives and light returns, unbroken, 24 hours a day. The midnight sun is one of nature's most extraordinary gifts. For weeks at a time, the sun never dips below the horizon, bathing the world in endless light. Life here has adapted to this rhythm over thousands of years of evolution. To truly understand the Arctic, we must let go of everything we know about nature in gentler lands. This is a different language, one of ice, darkness, and vast silence. Step into this world and discover the secrets it still holds. Ice in the Arctic is never still. It behaves like a living body, drifting with currents and wind. Massive sheets fracture, collide, and rise into towering ridges of ice. The groaning and thunder of breaking ice form the Arctic's constant soundtrack, both majestic and unsettling. Up close, the ice reveals itself as a work of natural art. Cracks trace perfect geometric patterns, each one a record of temperature and pressure. Frozen air bubbles beneath the surface carry samples of ancient atmospheres, preserving thousands of years of Earth's climate history. Most of an iceberg's power lies hidden beneath the surface. The origin of the phrase, "just the tip of the iceberg." A towering mass may rise 50 meters above water, while extending 200 meters below. Its deep turquoise color is born from light absorbed in the depths, a beauty shaped by nature itself. From beneath the water, the underside of the ice becomes another world, light filtering through layers in shimmering blue waves. Here live countless tiny organisms, algae, crustaceans, and larvae clinging to the ice. They form the foundation of the entire Arctic food web, sustaining everything from small fish to great whales. As spring arrives, temperatures rise and the ice begins to melt, forming pools of water across its surface. Meltwater flows into narrow channels, then gathers into temporary rivers winding across the white expanse. It is a signal that summer is coming, a great awakening after months of darkness. When massive ice blocks break and collapse into the ocean, the sound echoes like thunder. Each melting fragment marks an ending and the beginning of a new journey beneath the sea. Destruction and renewal exist side by side, the eternal rhythm of the Arctic. But not all melting is part of a natural cycle. Something is changing. In just a few decades, Arctic sea ice has shrunk dramatically, faster than any model predicted. The heart of the Arctic is slowing, and we can no longer afford to ignore it. In the depths of winter darkness, the Arctic sky ignites with ribbons of color. The aurora borealis, the northern lights, moves like vast curtains drifting in a cosmic wind. It is one of the greatest natural wonders our planet can offer. Science explains the aurora as charged particles from the sun colliding with Earth's atmosphere. Colors shift with altitude and gases: green from oxygen, red from nitrogen, violet from hydrogen. Yet even with explanation, the aurora holds something beyond the reach of reason. Inuit and other Arctic peoples have lived beneath the aurora for thousands of years. To them, it is not just a physical phenomenon. It is the spirits of their ancestors dancing in the sky. These stories remind us that nature carries meanings beyond what science can fully explain. Then the darkness fades, and light returns in a way only the Arctic can create. The sun hovers at the horizon, casting a twilight that lingers for weeks. Golden light spreads across the frozen expanse, an endless afternoon, quietly breathtaking. Spring light awakens the entire Arctic ecosystem. A mother polar bear leads her newborn cubs out of their den for the first time, their eyes squinting in the brightness. Their lives begin in that moment, a new chapter in the Arctic's endless cycle. Light in the Arctic plays strange tricks, deceiving even the most experienced explorers. The phenomenon known as fata morgana creates mirages, floating castles, distant islands, ships suspended in air. For centuries, these illusions have misled travelers, turning the Arctic into a realm where reality and illusion blur. When the aurora fades, another spectacle begins, a night sky untouched by light pollution. The Milky Way stretches from horizon to horizon, billions of stars shimmering like dusted diamonds. Standing beneath it, one feels more than ever how small we are within the universe. Beneath meters of solid ice lies a world few human eyes have ever seen. The Arctic Ocean, dark, frigid, and under immense pressure, is a place where life flourishes in extraordinary ways. It is one of the richest marine regions on Earth, sustained by warmer currents from the south. In spring, as the ice recedes, sunlight floods the ocean after months of darkness. Algae bloom within days, a feast that ignites the entire food chain. Millions of fish gather into vast shoals stretching for kilometers, one of the ocean's most breathtaking spectacles. Beluga whales, often called the canaries of the sea, are true natives of the Arctic. Their white color serves not only as camouflage but also as an adaptation to extreme cold. They communicate through complex sounds that travel vast distances beneath the dark ocean. The bowhead whale is the largest animal capable of living year-round in the Arctic and among the most intelligent in the ocean. Its skull is strong enough to break through ice up to 60 centimeters thick to breathe. With lifespans exceeding 200 years, some individuals may have swum beneath ice that no longer exists today. In the dark depths of the Arctic seabed live creatures still not fully understood by science. Arctic octopuses survive near freezing temperatures, their blood containing special proteins that prevent their cells from freezing. It is a perfect example of evolution's brilliance. Life always finds a way to endure. The lion's mane jellyfish, the largest in the world, drifts through the cold Arctic seas. Its bell can exceed 2 meters, with tentacles stretching up to 30 meters, longer than a blue whale. Floating silently in the dark, it captures prey with venomous strands, like living meteors of the ocean. From beneath the ocean, the ice above becomes a second sky, a ceiling of frozen light. It is a reversed world, where above and below lose their meaning. And within this strange inversion, life finds its own balance and harmony. At the top of the Arctic food chain stands a creature perfected over millions of years. the polar bear. Weighing up to 700 kilograms, with thick fat and insulating fur, it is the apex predator of the frozen world. Yet beneath its power lies remarkable intelligence and a complex social life. The polar bear's primary hunting method demands extraordinary patience. It can wait motionless beside a breathing hole for hours. When a seal surfaces, the strike is instant, precise, decisive, final. This is survival as an art, passed from mother to cub over thousands of years. Polar bears are powerful swimmers, capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers in icy waters. For the first 2 years, a mother teaches her cub everything it needs to survive. It is a bond of care and devotion, not unlike how humans raise their young. Ringed seals are among the most vital links in the Arctic ecosystem, prey for polar bears and sustenance for many others. Their thick blubber insulates them from near-freezing waters and stores energy for winter. By maintaining multiple breathing holes, they ensure a constant escape route. Musk oxen are living remnants of the Ice Age, once roaming alongside mammoths. Their dense coat is a natural insulator, finer than cashmere and exceptionally warm. Their defensive circle formation is ancient, an instinct written deep into their DNA. Each year, caribou undertake one of the largest land migrations on Earth, hundreds of thousands traveling vast distances. Guided by ancient instinct, they move without maps or compass. The thunder of their hooves echoes across the land, a symbol of collective strength. The Arctic fox embodies perfect adaptation. White in winter, brown-gray in summer. It can endure temperatures as low as -70 degrees without shivering, its body finely tuned to conserve heat. These small creatures are powerful reminders of life's resilience. Arctic summer transforms coastal cliffs into the busiest cities on Earth. Millions of seabirds crowd every ledge, while whales, seals, and bears gather to exploit the abundance of food. It is the Arctic's great summer feast, a brief but powerful explosion of life before winter returns. The walrus, with tusks up to 1 meter long and weighing as much as 2 tons, is one of the Arctic's most imposing animals. They gather in massive herds, crowding ice and shorelines to rest and stay warm. Their tusks serve not only as weapons, but as tools for climbing, status symbols, and instruments of survival. Orcas, or killer whales, are the ocean's most intelligent predators. Even polar bears avoid them in open water. They hunt in coordinated groups, using complex strategies to surround and share prey. Orcas possess culture. Each pod has its own language and hunting techniques, passed down through generations. All of these creatures converge at a single place, the ice edge, where frozen sea meets open water. It is the Arctic's most vital ecological boundary, rich in nutrients and life. Disrupt this fragile line, and the entire ecosystem begins to collapse. A chain reaction with no clear end. This is an image no one wants to see. A polar bear stranded on a shrinking piece of ice in a vast ocean. It depends on ice to hunt, to reproduce, to survive, and that ice is vanishing faster than it can adapt. This is not the story of one animal. It is the story of an entire world collapsing. The data does not lie. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. Average January temperatures have risen by more than 3 degrees Celsius in just 50 years. Each degree means millions of square kilometers of ice lost, species pushed to the brink, and food chains disrupted. As permafrost thaws, it releases vast amounts of methane trapped for thousands of years. Methane is up to 80 times more potent than CO2 in the short term, creating a dangerous feedback loop. It is a climate time bomb, once triggered, nearly impossible to stop. Climate change in the Arctic is not just environmental. It is a humanitarian crisis. Inuit communities are losing their homes, culture, and way of life built over thousands of years. Rising seas, shifting land, and disappearing wildlife are erasing a familiar world within a single generation. Ironically, melting ice is opening new shipping routes, cutting thousands of kilometers from global trade. Nations and corporations rush to exploit resources once locked beneath ice. The question is, are we burning our own house just to stay warm? Scientists are working tirelessly to understand what is happening. Each ice core is a page in Earth's climate history. Ancient air trapped in ice reveals the past. And the data tells a troubling story. The current rate of change has not been seen in at least 2 million years. This bear does not know where it is going. It only follows instinct, searching for what once was always there. But the ice is gone, and no one can explain why. In this moment, the silence of nature speaks louder than any human warning. But the story of the Arctic is not over, and there are those still fighting to rewrite its ending. Indigenous communities, scientists, and activists are working together, blending traditional knowledge with modern technology. They believe that if humanity created this problem, it also holds the power to solve it. Each spring, new cubs are born, curious, playful, and full of life in a world they do not yet understand. They are the embodiment of hope, life continuing despite overwhelming challenges. The question is not whether they want to survive, but whether we will give them the chance. From space, Earth appears almost like a water world. A single ocean covers nearly half of the planet's surface. This is the Pacific Ocean, the largest and deepest ocean ever known to humankind. The Pacific Ocean is larger than all the continents combined. From Asia to the Americas spans over 20,000 kilometers, a distance nearly enough to circle the Earth. Nothing on this planet compares to its scale. It is called Pacific, meaning peaceful, but that name only reflects the surface. Beneath this calm lies a world of intensity, chaos, and mystery far beyond human understanding. Most of the Pacific remains unexplored. We know more about the surface of the moon than the depths of this ocean. This is Earth's true final frontier, not outer space, but the ocean beneath our feet. The Pacific is not just water. It is a vast living system, regulating climate, sustaining billions of lives, generating storms, and shaping human history. The journey to understand it begins here. The Pacific is far from calm. Beneath the seafloor, massive tectonic plates are constantly shifting, colliding, and sinking beneath one another. This is the largest geological engine on Earth, operating for hundreds of millions of years. The Pacific seafloor is as complex as any land surface. Vast underwater mountain ranges stretch for thousands of kilometers. Deep, silent plains extend endlessly, and dark trenches carve deep into the earth, all hidden beneath kilometers of water. The Ring of Fire surrounding the Pacific contains about 75% of the world's active volcanoes. It is also responsible for over 90% of major earthquakes. Nowhere else on Earth is geological activity this intense and dangerous. Hundreds of volcanoes are actively erupting beneath the Pacific right now. They release molten lava, create new islands, and reshape the ocean floor over time. Fire and water coexist in a dance that has lasted for millions of years. The Mariana Trench is the deepest point on Earth, reaching nearly 11,000 meters. If Mount Everest were placed inside it, its peak would still lie more than 2 kilometers below the surface. The pressure can crush steel, yet life still exists there. Only a handful of humans have reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench, fewer than those who have walked on the moon. Each mission is a journey into the most extreme conditions life and technology can endure. This is the most alien place on our own planet. When tectonic plates shift suddenly, centuries of stored energy are released in an instant. Tsunamis form, traveling at jet-like speeds and carrying the force of millions of tons of water. The Pacific is the origin of most of the deadliest tsunamis in history. All life in the Pacific begins with organisms too small to be seen. Phytoplankton, microscopic algae, perform photosynthesis and produce more than half of the oxygen we breathe. If they disappeared, the entire ocean ecosystem would collapse within weeks. The next step in the food chain is zooplankton. tiny drifting creatures that feed on phytoplankton. Each night, they perform the largest vertical migration on Earth, rising to feed, then descending to avoid predators. This is the hidden heartbeat of the ocean. Millions of small fish gather into massive schools for protection. This is one of nature's most spectacular phenomena. Millions of individuals moving as a single organism, confusing predators through perfect synchronization. Higher in the food chain are high-speed predators like tuna and swordfish. They can reach speeds of up to 80 kilometers per hour in water, faster than many land animals. Evolution has shaped them into perfect hunting machines over millions of years. Sharks are the regulators of the ocean. For over 450 million years, they have sat at the top of the food chain, controlling populations below. When sharks disappear, rays explode in number, destroying seagrass, triggering unpredictable domino effects. The blue whale is the largest animal ever to exist on Earth, heavier than 20 elephants. Yet this giant survives by feeding on tiny krill. It is nature's greatest lesson. Everything is connected, and the greatest power depends on the smallest life forms. Orcas are the wolves of the sea, hunting in groups, possessing their own language and passing down culture through generations. They even teach their young hunting techniques over years. Their intelligence raises a question. Where is the line between instinct and culture in the ocean? At a depth of 200 meters, sunlight can no longer reach. Beyond this point begins another world, one without light, without seasons, and with temperatures hovering around 2 degrees Celsius year-round. This is the twilight zone, the boundary between the familiar world and a completely alien one. Darkness does not mean the absence of color. The deep ocean is filled with bioluminescence. Hundreds of species create their own light to hunt, communicate, or defend themselves. It is the most extraordinary light show in the universe, happening every night, unseen. Deep-sea creatures seem designed by an entirely different imagination. Transparent jellyfish stretch longer than whales, vampire squids drift with webbed arms, and red tube worms grow like forests. The deep ocean hosts a biodiversity unlike anything on land. At hydrothermal vents, superheated water at 400 degrees Celsius erupts from the ocean floor. There is no sunlight, no oxygen from photosynthesis, yet life thrives here. These organisms rely on chemical energy from sulfur, forming an ecosystem completely independent of the sun. Ecosystems at hydrothermal vents prove that life does not require sunlight to exist. This has implications beyond Earth. If life can survive in such darkness and pressure, it may also exist on ocean moons of Jupiter or Saturn, waiting to be discovered. The giant squid was a creature of legend for thousands of years, yet it was first filmed only in 2004. Weighing up to 300 kilograms and possessing the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, it is not myth, but reality. The deep sea still hides secrets like this. Every time a submersible reaches the ocean floor, new species are discovered. Scientists estimate that only about 20% of the seafloor has been mapped in detail. The remaining 80% is terra incognita, the unknown frontier of our own planet. In 1997, a U.S. underwater listening system detected a mysterious signal loud enough to be heard across the Pacific. It was named the bloop. No known organism is large enough to produce such a sound. Its true origin remains unanswered. The bloop was not alone. Julia sounds like a distant scream. Upsweep is a long rising tone lasting for hours. And slow down is a strange decelerating signal from an unknown source. The ocean has its own language, and we understand only a fraction of it. Point Nemo is the most remote location on Earth, over 2,600 kilometers from the nearest land in every direction. The closest humans are not on Earth, but aboard the International Space Station overhead. Parts of the Pacific are isolated beyond imagination. Point Nemo is also known as the spacecraft graveyard, where space agencies deliberately sink decommissioned spacecraft. It is remote enough to pose no danger to anyone. The Russian Mir station and parts of the ISS now rest on the ocean floor there. We have mapped 100% of the Moon and 98% of Mars, but only about 20% of Earth's ocean floor. In fact, we know more about Venus's surface than the Pacific seabed. Many of humanity's biggest answers may lie hidden in that darkness. Every ocean expedition is a battle against the limits of technology and nature. The deep sea does not forgive mistakes. Pressure, darkness, and total isolation push humans to the edge. Yet every discovery only leads to dozens of new questions. Since World War II, global seafood production has increased fivefold thanks to technology. Modern fishing vessels can locate and capture entire schools of fish within hours. Over 90% of large fish populations have disappeared in the past 50 years. An ecological collapse unfolding before our eyes. A temperature rise of just 1 to 2 degrees Celsius is enough to kill coral, the foundation of ecosystems that support 25% of marine fish. The Great Barrier Reef has lost over 50% of its area in just a few decades. Once gone, it can take thousands of years to recover. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is twice the size of Texas and continues to grow every day. 8 million tons of plastic enter the ocean each year. Sea turtles mistake plastic bags for jellyfish, and whales die with kilograms of plastic in their stomachs. This is the cost nature is paying for human actions. Microplastics have infiltrated every level of the ocean food chain, from phytoplankton to blue whales. They are found in the salt we eat, the air we breathe, and even in human blood. The plastic we discard today will remain in the ocean for hundreds of years. The oceans absorb over 90% of excess heat from greenhouse effects. This is changing everything: ocean currents, fish spawning seasons, and species distribution. These changes are happening faster than any natural climate shift in the past 65 million years. Ocean currents like the AMOC, the Atlantic's climate regulator, are slowing due to freshwater from melting ice diluting ocean salinity. If they stop, northwestern Europe could cool by 5 to 10 degrees Celsius within decades. This is not science fiction. It is a real risk scientists are monitoring daily. Hundreds of millions of people depend on the Pacific for survival. Small island communities are losing fish stocks and land due to rising sea levels. For them, climate change is not statistics. It is the loss of ancestry, identity, and home. The Pacific Ocean is the planet's largest storm generator. Each year, dozens of tropical storms form across its surface, carrying energy equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs. They shape the weather of Southeast Asia, East Asia, and the western coasts of the United States. El Niño and La Niña are the Pacific's global climate controls. When El Niño occurs, Australia faces drought, Peru floods, and Southeast Asia experiences extreme heat, all triggered by changes in ocean temperature in one region of the Pacific. This is the clearest proof of the ocean's power to regulate global climate. The Pacific absorbs billions of tons of CO2 each year through phytoplankton and kelp forests, acting as the planet's second lung. Without this function, the rate of climate change would double. The ocean is not just affected by climate, it actively slows its impact. The Pacific is the world's largest trade route. Over half of global goods pass through it each year. The phone you hold, the clothes you wear, the food you eat, all likely cross the Pacific at some point in their journey to you. For thousands of years, Polynesian navigators crossed the Pacific using only stars and ocean swells. They explored this vast ocean not with machines, but with inherited knowledge and deep respect for nature. It is a relationship the modern world is slowly losing. The Pacific existed millions of years before humans and will continue long after us. But the form it takes, whether it remains diverse, alive, and capable of sustaining billions, depends on the choices we make today. Hundreds of scientists are working day and night to monitor every change in the Pacific. They map the seafloor, collect samples, track species, and measure temperatures, not out of curiosity alone, but because they know understanding is the first step toward preservation. Science is hope. The Pacific is not just an ocean. It is a living world, a vast system that keeps Earth habitable. Its mysteries exceed what we know, its power surpasses imagination, and its future now lies in our hands.
You look at the ocean's surface and think you are seeing the Atlantic, but that surface is only a curtain, a thin sheet of glass separating our world from an entirely different one below. "99% of this ocean's volume exists where there is no light, no warmth, no familiar sound, and yet it is still full of life."
With every meter you descend, something changes. Light weakens, colors disappear in sequence. Red first, then orange, yellow, green. Only blue remains. Then violet. Then nothing. Darkness does not arrive from one direction. It comes from everywhere at once, slowly and completely consuming everything.
Before we descend deeper, look at the smallest life in the upper layer, phytoplankton. Single-celled organisms invisible to the naked eye produce more than 50% of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. Not rainforests, not the Amazon. These microscopic drifters, suspended in the top 200 meters of the Atlantic, are what keep you breathing.
This is a bait ball. Millions of herrings gather into a dense sphere and move as if they were a single organism. No leader, no central command. Each fish reacts only to its nearest neighbor, and from millions of simple decisions emerges a collective intelligence powerful enough to deceive sharks and tuna for hours.
Funnus finis, the Atlantic bluefin tuna. 3 meters long, weighing over 600 kilograms, capable of bursts up to 70 kilometers per hour. They are warm-blooded, rare among fish, maintaining a body temperature higher than the surrounding water to maximize muscle performance. Each year they migrate from the Caribbean to Norway and back, tens of thousands of kilometers with no maps, no GPS, guided only by Earth's magnetic field.
Dolphins are not just intelligent, they have names. Each dolphin produces a unique signature whistle, like an acoustic fingerprint, and others in the pod call them by it. They remember companions after years apart. They teach their young hunting techniques through demonstration. The Atlantic is home to minds like these, right at the surface, right before our eyes.
Dermacheles coriacea, the leatherback turtle, the largest living reptile, weighing up to 900 kilograms. They dive deeper than 1,200 meters to hunt jellyfish, prey they pursue across the Atlantic. This species has existed for 100 million years, surviving the extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. And now, they face the greatest threat in their history, us.
Cyanea capillata, the lion's mane jellyfish. One of the longest animals ever recorded, its tentacles stretching up to 37 meters, longer than a blue whale. No brain, no heart, no blood. A body made of 95% water. And yet, it hunts, reproduces, and has existed for 500 million years, long before fish first appeared on Earth.
The Sargasso Sea is the only sea on Earth without a shoreline, its boundaries defined by 4 surrounding currents. The floating mats of golden sargassum form a complete ecosystem. Hundreds of species cling to it, hide within it, feed upon one another, entirely dependent on this drifting forest. It is also where European eels travel over 6,000 kilometers to spawn and then die.
"200 meters. Sunlight officially ends here. Above is the world you know. Below is a world humanity has only just begun to glimpse. More than 80% of the ocean floor has never been directly observed. What we are about to enter, much of it is being told for the first time. Let's keep descending."
The mesopelagic layer, also known as the twilight zone, stretches from 200 to 1,000 meters. This is a realm of perpetual dusk, where day and night lose their meaning, and light becomes only a faint memory from above. Few people realize this zone holds the largest animal biomass on the planet, more than all surface fish combined, yet we know almost nothing about it.
Myctophidae, lanternfish. These tiny fish, only a few centimeters long, may be the most abundant fish on Earth by total biomass. Each night, they rise to the surface to feed. Each morning, they descend into darkness to avoid predators. This vertical journey of hundreds of meters, repeated every 24 hours, is the largest migration on the planet, and almost no one knows it exists.
A siphonophore is not a single organism, but a colony. Thousands of tiny individuals called zooids are linked together. Each evolved to specialize in a single task: hunting, digestion, reproduction, propulsion. None can survive alone. It represents one of the most blurred boundaries between individual and collective in the natural world, and some species grow up to 50 meters long.
Vampiroteuthis infernalis, the vampire squid from hell, a scientific name that lives up to its meaning. Neither true octopus nor true squid, it is the last surviving member of an ancient evolutionary lineage. When threatened, it turns itself inside out like a cloak, exposing sharp spines, and releases not black ink, but clouds of bioluminescent light, turning darkness into illumination.
Humboldt squid communicate by changing the color of their skin. Millions of chromatophores expand and contract in an instant, producing complex flashing signals we have yet to decode. They hunt cooperatively, coordinating attacks without sound, using only light. It is a complete language, written on skin, read by sight, in total darkness.
Regalachus glesnae, the oarfish. Reaching up to 11 meters, it is the longest bony fish on Earth. For centuries, oarfish appearing near shore were believed to signal earthquakes and tsunamis, not entirely without basis, as they inhabit tectonic fault zones. They were never filmed alive in their natural habitat until 2001. Before that, we only knew them from bodies washed ashore.
Marine snow. The remains of phytoplankton, animal waste, mineral shells of microorganisms all clump into tiny particles and fall continuously from the surface. It is the only food supply for life below the light zone. But marine snow is also a carbon pathway, carrying atmospheric CO2 to the ocean floor. The Atlantic is absorbing humanity's carbon and burying it for thousands of years, every second, every day.
Isurus oxyrhynchus, The short-fin mako shark, the fastest shark in the ocean, reaching 70 kilometers per hour and leaping up to 6 meters above the surface. Like the bluefin tuna, makos are warm-blooded, maintaining elevated body temperatures to maximize muscle and brain performance while hunting. They can detect prey movement through electroreceptors across their snouts.
Every night at sunset, an extraordinary event unfolds across the global ocean. Billions of organisms, lanternfish, shrimp, small squid, copepods, rise from the depths to feed at the surface, then descend before dawn. This vertical migration moves vast amounts of carbon from surface waters to the deep ocean each night, one of the most important mechanisms regulating Earth's climate, and we are only beginning to understand it.
Copepods, smaller than a grain of rice, may be the most numerous animals on Earth. Trillions are drifting in the Atlantic right now. They are the central link in the entire marine food web, feeding on phytoplankton, eaten by small fish, and ultimately sustaining whales. If copepods disappeared, the ocean ecosystem would collapse within weeks.
Architeuthis ducks, the giant squid, growing up to 13 meters long with the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, 27 centimeters wide, the size of a dinner plate, designed to capture the faintest photons in the darkness. For centuries they were legend, the Viking kraken, the sailor sea monster. Not until 2004 were they first photographed alive in their natural habitat, and much about them remains unknown.
During World War II, the U.S. Navy discovered something strange. Sonar repeatedly misread the ocean floor. They called it the false bottom. Later, scientists realized it was the deep scattering layer, a dense concentration of organisms reflecting sound waves like solid ground. Billions of creatures gathered at the edge of light, forming a biological layer so thick, sonar mistook it for rock. War had accidentally uncovered one of the greatest ecological phenomena of the ocean.
"1,000 meters. Sunlight does not exist here. Not a single photon from the sun reaches this layer. Temperature, 4 degrees Celsius. Pressure, 100 atmospheres, 100 times surface pressure. This is the bathypelagic zone, the realm of true darkness, stretching from 1,000 to 4,000 meters, and it holds more mysteries than everything we have discovered above."
Melanocetus johnsoni, the black anglerfish. The female carries a biological lure on her head, its tip filled with bioluminescent bacteria, the only trap she needs. Prey approaches out of curiosity or mistake and disappears into elastic jaws capable of swallowing something twice her size. Her stomach can expand almost endlessly. In this darkness, you never know when the next meal will come.
Male anglerfish are up to 60 times smaller than females. When he encounters a female, he bites into her skin and begins to fuse, circulatory, nervous, and digestive systems gradually connecting before dissolving. Eventually, the male is no longer an independent individual. He becomes an appendage of the female, existing only to provide sperm. This is one of the most extreme forms of biological integration in nature. Dragonfish possess a weapon no prey here is prepared for: infrared light.
Most deep-sea creatures cannot see infrared because evolution never created sensors for something absent from their environment. Dragonfish use it as a stealth flashlight, illuminating prey without the prey knowing it is being lit. They truly see in the darkness, while everything around them remains blind. Macropinna microstoma, the bear eye fish. Its head is completely transparent, like a diving helmet, allowing its tubular eyes to rotate freely inside, looking upward to detect faint backlit prey silhouettes, then rotating forward to strike. We did not know this until 2004, because bringing them to the surface shattered the transparent dome. For decades, we described the species incorrectly. Chaliotis sloani, the viperfish. Fangs so long it cannot close its mouth, curving outward to form an inescapable trap. Along its belly, photophores emit light matching the faint glow from above, allowing it to disappear when viewed from below. In this darkness, even darkness itself becomes a weapon. Grimpeteuthis, the Dumbo octopus, lives between 1,000 and 7,000 meters, the deepest living octopus known. Its body is nearly transparent, lacking an ink sac because concealment is unnecessary where there is no light. They do not follow seasonal reproductive cycles like surface species. Females carry eggs and can lay them year-round when conditions allow. In eternal darkness, time operates differently. Himantolophus, the deep-sea football fish. Its round body is an adaptation, no streamlined scales for speed, because speed does not matter here. Energy conservation does. It barely swims, hovering and waiting. Its lure emits silver light, different from the common blue, attracting prey accustomed to blue glows. In the darkness, even the color of light is strategy. In absolute darkness, some species evolved in the opposite direction. Instead of dark camouflage, they became transparent. There is nothing to see as light passes through like air. This is the most perfect invisibility possible, not by blending into the background, but by erasing one's shadow entirely in a world without light. Mantis shrimp can strike with acceleration faster than a bullet, 23 meters per second in under 3 milliseconds. The punch creates cavitation bubbles, low pressure bubbles that collapse at temperatures as hot as the surface of the sun for a fraction of a second. Even if the direct hit misses, the shockwave can kill the prey. They carry a miniature nuclear-level physical weapon in their claws. Deep-sea hatchetfish practice camouflage known as counter-illumination. Their bellies glow through photophores at precisely the same intensity as the faint light from above. Viewed from below, they vanish into the background and cast no shadow. Predators see nothing. It is optical stealth technology, perfect, battery-free, evolved over millions of years. Acanthoster plantsy, the crown of thorns starfish. Not a deep-sea species, but a perfect example of how one species can destroy an entire ecosystem. Each individual consumes coral. During outbreaks, they blanket and eliminate entire reefs in months. Ecosystems built over centuries erased in a single season. And outbreaks are becoming more frequent as oceans warm. Samniosis microphycephalus, the Greenland shark. the longest living vertebrate known on Earth. Radiocarbon analysis of islands tissue suggests one individual lived over 400 years, born before Galileo invented the telescope. They grow so slowly, they reach sexual maturity only at 150 years. In 2 degrees Celsius water, time literally moves slower. Sperm whales dive to 2,000 meters and can hold their breath for over 90 minutes. In total darkness, they hunt giant squid using echolocation, producing the loudest clicks in the animal kingdom, 230 decibels, powerful enough to stun or kill prey before contact. Many sperm whales bear large circular scars, marks left by giant squid tentacles in battles no human has ever witnessed. Stillness is the most effective hunting strategy in darkness. Many species here never actively chase prey. They wait, day after day, month after month, hovering or lying motionless, consuming minimal energy. When prey comes close enough, in an instant. Where food is scarce and energy more precious than gold, patience is not a virtue, it is survival. 4,000 meters. The seafloor, not rock, but mud. Fine sediment tens of meters thick, accumulated from marine snow over millions of years. This is the abyssal plain, the flattest and most extensive terrain on Earth, stretching thousands of kilometers unchanged, silent, dark, and cold. And still, life exists here, though no one knows exactly what kind or how much. 3,800 meters beneath the Atlantic, 700 kilometers from Newfoundland. RMS Titanic has rested here since the night of April 15, 1912. But this is no longer just a wreck. It is a complete ecosystem. Coral clings to the railings, fish move through corridors once filled with people. Octopus inhabit rooms that were once first-class cabins. Halomonas titanica, bacteria named after the ship itself, are consuming Titanic from within. They feed on iron, excreting intricate rust formations called rusticles, up to 90 centimeters long, housing entire microbial communities inside. Scientists estimate Titanic may fully collapse within the next 30 years. The ship is being slowly digested by millions of invisible organisms. In 1912, this was the most luxurious ship ever built. Crystal fountains, grand staircases, private refrigeration for each cabin. Now, nothing remains. Wood consumed by bacteria, carpets and curtains dissolved, only metal and mud endure. Yet within that mud, thousands of objects remain intact. Leather shoes, wine bottles still holding wine, silverware still gleaming in ROV light after more than a century. From the 15th to 18th centuries, hundreds of Spanish galleons carried gold and silver from the Americas to Europe, and many never arrived. Storms, reefs, pirates, the Atlantic took its share. Billions in treasure may still lie undiscovered in these wrecks. Yet more valuable now, they have become coral reefs, habitats for hundreds of species that could not survive without them. The U.S. East Coast from Florida to Cape Hatteras. Sailors in World War II called it Torpedo Junction. German U-boats hunted here from 1942, sinking hundreds of ships within months, sometimes within sight of shore. Now the wrecks of U-boats and Allied vessels lie side by side beneath the sea, coral covering both, hostility dissolved in time. SS Thistlegorm, a British military supply ship bombed in 1941, sank with its cargo intact. Trucks, motorcycles, rifles, boots, boxed watches. Today, everything remains as it was loaded, neatly arranged yet covered in coral and anemones. Fish swim through motorcycles like a forest. War created a sanctuary. Henrietta Marie, a British slave ship wrecked in 1700 off Florida. When divers found it in 1972, they discovered hundreds of iron shackles scattered across the seabed. An estimated 200 Africans were chained in its hold when it sank. This wreck stands as physical evidence of one of humanity's darkest chapters, resting silently beneath the Atlantic for 3 centuries. Not only ships, the Atlantic is also a graveyard for thousands of aircraft. B-17 bombers flying from America to Britain often ran out of fuel and ditched at sea. Crews were rescued, the planes were not. Now these flying fortresses lie on the seabed like rusted steel monuments, cockpits intact, tail guns still facing backward, waiting for enemies that will never come again. In 1968, the U.S. nuclear submarine USS Scorpion disappeared en route from the Mediterranean to Norfolk. 99 sailors never returned. It was found that same year at 3,000 meters, shattered into pieces. The official cause remains unresolved after more than 50 years. The Atlantic keeps its secrets. The most remarkable thing about these wrecks is not that they sank, but what happened afterward. Hard metal in soft sediment is a rare resource, an anchor point for coral, anemones, mussels, oysters. When coral grows, fish arrive. When fish arrive, larger fish follow. Within decades, a wreck becomes one of the most biodiverse sites in surrounding waters. Human tragedy becomes nature's sanctuary. Modern technology is transforming how we approach these graveyards. ROVs can descend to 6,000 meters, film in high resolution, collect samples without touch. Wrecks once unreachable are now mapped in full 3D by sonar. Yet for every wreck discovered, hundreds remain unknown, lying silently in darkness, waiting. An estimated 3 million shipwrecks lie on the ocean floors, most within the Atlantic. Each wreck is a story interrupted, a journey never completed. Yet, from another perspective, the Atlantic has preserved over 3 million physical records of human history under near-perfect conditions. The ocean does not only take, it also keeps. In the oxygen-poor mud of the Atlantic seabed, ordinary decay bacteria cannot function. Many organic materials are preserved almost perfectly. Leather shoes from Titanic still hold their shape after more than a century. Leather, fabric, wood would normally vanish, but here, time moves slower. Decay proceeds differently. The deep seafloor is the most perfect archive on the planet.
The oldest wrecks in Atlantic-adjacent waters, Greek, Roman, Phoenician amphorae, remain intact after 2,000 years. Inside some amphorae, traces of wine, olive oil, honey still remain. Goods packed by hands turned to ash millennia ago. The Atlantic is a library.
Underwater archaeology is among the most difficult sciences. No true gravity, limited visibility, pressure increasing with every meter, dive time restricted, and the subject of study constantly decaying, looted, or accidentally damaged. Each expedition is a race against time to preserve evidence before the Atlantic claims it forever.
The final stage of every wreck, when coral has fully covered it, when metal has dissolved into sediment, when no artificial trace remains visible, is complete integration into nature. Ship becomes rock, rock becomes reef, reef becomes ecosystem. Humanity builds, the Atlantic transforms, nature completes. The cycle has no end.
If you drained the entire Atlantic Ocean, the first thing you would see is a mountain range. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, stretching 16,000 kilometers, is the longest mountain chain on Earth. Most of it lies underwater, except Iceland, the only country on Earth built directly atop a mid-ocean ridge. At the center of the ridge lies a rift valley, a fracture where two tectonic plates are pulling apart. Speed, about 2.5 centimeters per year, the rate your fingernails grow. It sounds small, but over 100 million years, that is why the Americas and Africa are now 7,000 kilometers apart. The Atlantic is growing, every day, millimeter by millimeter. When magma erupts from the rift and meets 2 degrees seawater, it instantly solidifies into rounded formations called pillow lava. Billions of tons of new rock are created each year from Earth's interior, filling the gap between separating plates. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge is a factory of ocean floor, operating continuously for 200 million years without a single day of rest. Iceland is the only place on Earth where you can stand between 2 tectonic plates and see them with your own eyes. The Thingvellir Valley, an exposed rift, widens by 2.5 centimeters each year. Divers can swim between the North American and Eurasian plates, touching both at once. It is the only place in the world where you can physically touch the force creating the Atlantic. Scattered along the ridge and across the Atlantic are more than 800 identified seamounts, underwater volcanoes not tall enough to break the surface. Each is a biological oasis. Currents striking the slopes push nutrients upward, creating massive feeding grounds. Whales migrate along these seamount chains like following a food map. Cold water corals cling to basalt rock, building living structures without sunlight. Lophelia pertusa, cold water coral. It needs no sunlight, no warm temperatures. It survives at depths from 40 to 3,000 meters and waters 4 to 13 degrees Celsius. Atlantic cold water reefs can rise 35 meters high and stretch for kilometers, thousands of years old. They grow only millimeters per year. A 1-meter structure may be 1,000 years old. and we have destroyed more cold water reefs than we have ever discovered. Beneath the Rift Valley, magma lies only a few kilometers below the seafloor. Heat from Earth's interior seeps through rock, heating seawater that infiltrates cracks, returning it superheated through hydrothermal vents. This is a massive heat circulation system, cold water in, hot mineral-rich water out, continuous for millions of years, sustaining ecosystems without sunlight. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge is one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. Thousands of small quakes each year, most unfelt at the surface. But when tectonic plates shift suddenly, shock waves travel through seawater at the speed of sound, 1,500 meters per second. Large quakes here can trigger tsunamis reaching the coasts of Europe and the Americas. The Atlantic seafloor is Earth's most perfect geological book. The farther from the ridge, the older the crust, each layer recording a chapter of geological time. By reading the Atlantic floor, geologists reconstructed 200 million years of continental drift, from the breakup of Pangaea to the present. Scattered along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge are islands, volcanic peaks tall enough to breach the surface. Ascension, St. Helena, Tristan da Cunha, among the loneliest islands on Earth, thousands of kilometers from the nearest continent. St. Helena, Napoleon's place of exile, rises 4,000 meters from the seafloor, yet only 818 meters above sea level. When magma solidifies into rock, magnetic minerals align with Earth's magnetic field, recording its direction like magnetic tape. Earth's magnetic field reverses every 200,000 to 300,000 years, and each reversal is preserved in alternating magnetic stripes on the seafloor. By reading these stripes, we know precisely how the ocean floor has spread, the most perfect evidence of plate tectonics. 2,000 meters beneath the Atlantic surface, surrounding water temperature 2 degrees Celsius. And from this fracture, water erupts at 400 degrees Celsius. It does not boil because 250 atmospheres of pressure keep it in a supercritical liquid state. This is a hydrothermal vent, and surrounding it is a complete ecosystem that survives without a single photon of sunlight. Black smokers are mineral chimneys formed when superheated, mineral-rich water meets cold seawater. They can rise up to 60 meters, grow within decades, and sometimes collapse within hours. The fluid they release is rich in hydrogen sulfide, methane, and metals, toxic to most life on Earth. Yet here, specialized organisms have evolved to turn poison into energy. Riftia pachyptilla, giant tube worms, have no mouth, no stomach, no digestive system. They survive entirely through chemosynthetic bacteria living in a special organ called the trophosome, which can make up 15% of their body weight. These bacteria convert toxic hydrogen sulfide into organic energy. This was the first compelling evidence that life does not require sunlight to exist. Rimicaris exoculata, blind vent shrimp, have completely lost their eyes through evolution. In their place, they possess a primitive light-sensitive organ on their backs, capable of detecting faint infrared radiation from the vent, enough to navigate. Densities can reach 2,500 individuals per square meter, almost unimaginable. Kiwa hirsuta, the yeti crab. The dense white hairs on its claws and chest are not for warmth. They are bacterial gardens. The crab cultivates chemosynthetic bacteria and harvests them as food. This is agriculture, farming and harvesting at 2,400 meters below sea level in near boiling water. Evolution invented agriculture millions of years before humans. Chrysomalin squamiferum, the scalyfoot snail, is the only known animal with an exoskeleton made of iron sulfide. Its shell and scales are mineralized directly from vent fluids. When discovered in 2001, the US military studied its shell structure for advanced armor design. Sometimes the best solutions are waiting on the ocean floor. In 2000, scientists discovered the lost city on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a vent system unlike black smokers. Instead of acidic, superheating water, it emits warm alkaline fluids, 40 to 90 degrees Celsius, forming white towers up to 60 meters tall, made of aragonite and calcite. Lost City has been active for at least 30,000 years. The chemical reactions here produce hydrogen and methane, the most fundamental molecules of life. Archaea, ancient microorganisms, live in vent waters exceeding boiling temperature. Pyrolobus fumari survives at 121 degrees Celsius, the temperature of laboratory sterilization autoclaves. These are among the most extreme life forms known, and may be direct descendants of Earth's earliest organisms 3.8 billion years ago, when the planet resembled this hellscape. Pycnogonids, sea spiders, are not true spiders, but a distinct class of arthropods. In deep, cold waters and vent regions, some species reach giant sizes, legs up to 70 centimeters long. This is deep-sea gigantism. Cold temperatures and high oxygen levels allow invertebrates to grow beyond surface limits. Here, the rules of size are rewritten. Bathymodialis, giant vent mussels, host chemosynthetic bacteria in their gills instead of filter feeding like typical mussels. They are mobile chemical factories. Some species can survive in both methane-rich and hydrogen sulfide-rich environments, earning the nickname dual fuel. In unstable vent habitats, flexibility is survival. Hydrothermal vents do not last forever. When magma shifts or cools, the heat source shuts down, sometimes within days, sometimes within hours. The ecosystem depending on that vent begins to die. But before it does, larvae and spores disperse into deep currents, the offspring of a dying vent drifting in search of another, perhaps hundreds of kilometers away. Cold seeps are not hot vents, but slow leaks of methane and hydrogen sulfide without heat. No towers, no smoke, only bubbles rising and white bacterial mats spreading like snow. Cold seep ecosystems are less rich than hydrothermal vents, but far more stable, lasting hundreds of thousands of years, sustaining unknown communities awaiting discovery. DSV Alvin, the legendary American research submersible, first brought humans to observe hydrothermal vents in 1977. When the crew saw forests of red tube worms in total darkness, they could hardly believe their eyes. It is said a biologist opened a bottle of wine kept for special occasions right then and there. This was one of the most important biological discoveries of the 20th century, and it happened on the ocean floor. Megaptera novae angliae, the humpback whale, 16 meters long, weighing 36 tons. They breach, launching their entire bodies out of the ocean, and no one knows for certain why. Some theories suggest parasite removal, others social communication, others play. Perhaps all are true. In the Atlantic, humpbacks migrate annually from the tropical Caribbean to the far north, one of the longest migrations of any. Male whales sing, and their songs have structure. Themes, repetition, variation, like jazz. Songs evolve seasonally and yearly, spreading through social learning. A melody born in the Caribbean can appear years later off Hawaii. This is oral culture, no writing, no schools, carried across entire oceans. Balænoptera musculus, the blue whale, is the largest creature to ever exist in Earth's history. Larger than any dinosaur, its heart weighs 600 kilograms, large enough for a human to crawl through its aorta. Its call, 188 decibels, is the loudest sound in the animal kingdom and can travel thousands of kilometers underwater. In just 1 century, we nearly drove the greatest animal on Earth to extinction.
Carcharodon carcharias, the great white shark. In the Atlantic, they do not stay in one place. Tagged individuals have swum from the U.S. East Coast across the ocean to Africa and back, over 20,000 kilometers in a year. Why? Still uncertain. Great whites have existed for 16 million years, long before humans, and we still do not fully understand their migrations.
Siphius gladius, the swordfish, capable of bursts up to 100 kilometers per hour. They do not stab prey with their bill. They slash through schools of fish, then circle back to consume the injured. They possess specialized organs that warm their eyes and brain, raising eye temperature 10 to 15 degrees Celsius above surrounding water, enhancing visual processing in cold, deep nighttime hunts. Manta birostris, the oceanic manta ray, wingspans up to 7 meters, weighing 2 tons. They migrate across the Atlantic following plankton blooms in temperature gradients. They have one of the largest brain-to-body ratios among fish and pass multiple cognitive tests. Mantas recognize themselves in mirrors, one of the few non-primate species known to do so. We still do not know exactly how long they live. Anguilla anguilla, the European eel. It lives 10 to 20 years in European rivers and lakes. Then something changes. Eyes enlarge, the body turns silver, digestion shuts down. They swim 6,000 kilometers to the Sargasso Sea to spawn and die. Their young drift for 3 years on the Gulf Stream back to Europe. The life cycle is complete, yet no one has ever witnessed European eels spawning. A mystery unfolding for millions of years without human observation. Each autumn, billions of herring migrate south along the Atlantic coast. Their schools are so dense that ship sonar mistakes them for the seabed. Whales, tuna, sharks, seabirds all converge for what may be the greatest feeding event on Earth. And when it ends, the herring continue, billions of small creatures coordinating 1,000-mile journeys through simple rules.
Octopus vulgaris, the common octopus, is among the most intelligent invertebrates on Earth. They solve puzzles, use tools, recognize human faces, and treat individuals differently. Each arm contains its own semi-autonomous nervous system. 2/3 of neurons are in the arms, not the brain. Even a severed arm can respond independently for up to an hour. The octopus thinks with its body.
Hippocampus, the seahorse. Males become pregnant. They possess brood pouches, receive eggs from females, nourish them, and give birth. Each morning, pairs perform a greeting dance, changing colors and synchronizing movements, reinforcing their bond. Some species mate for life. In an ocean full of predators and danger, seahorses choose loyalty. Bluefin tuna hunt cooperatively. One group drives prey upward, another attacks from below, others from the sides. There is no commander. Each fish reads the movement of the school and reacts. Collective intelligence emerges from simple rules. In the ocean, the most effective hunter is not the strongest or fastest, but the smartest as a group. Night over the Atlantic is when the ocean truly reveals itself. Billions of bioluminescent organisms become active. Dinoflagellates glow blue when disturbed. Every wave, every movement leaves trails of light. Boats carve luminous paths through darkness. Swim at night in the Atlantic, and every motion paints with light. The ocean is watching you. This is the darkest place on our planet. Not outer space, not a cave, not the depths of a forest. It lies directly beneath your feet, 11 kilometers below the ocean's surface. Sunlight can only penetrate the first 300 meters of the ocean. Below that lies the twilight zone, then the midnight zone, and finally, absolute darkness. Challenger Deep is 36 times deeper, where no ray of sunlight has ever reached. If Mount Everest were placed inside the Mariana Trench, its peak would still sit 2 kilometers underwater. This is the lowest point on Earth's surface. And for centuries, humanity knew almost nothing about it. More people have walked on the moon than have visited the deepest ocean. Challenger Deep is more remote than the International Space Station. And what scientists discovered there could change how we understand life forever. Scientists discovered life here. Not fragile organisms barely surviving, but entire ecosystems thriving and stranger than anything imagined on distant planets. This is the story of Earth's deepest abyss and its final mystery. The Mariana Trench lies in the western Pacific Ocean, about 300 kilometers from the island of Guam. It stretches for 2,550 kilometers, longer than the width of the United States. But its true fame comes from its unimaginable depth.
Earth's surface is divided into massive tectonic plates that constantly move. Here, the older and heavier Pacific Plate dives beneath the smaller Mariana Plate, tearing the ocean crust apart and forming the deepest scar on the planet.
What makes the Mariana Trench so deep is the age of the ocean crust. It is 170 million years old. Dating back to the age of dinosaurs. Older crust is colder, denser, and sinks deeper into the planet. From the surface to 200 meters lies the sunlight zone. Home to dolphins, sharks, and coral reefs. Below 1,000 meters begins the midnight zone, where darkness and crushing cold dominate. But beyond 6,000 meters lies the Hadal zone. A strange world where pressure reshapes the rules of life itself. The pressure at Challenger Deep is more than 1,000 times stronger than at sea level. It's like placing 50 Boeing 747 airplanes on an area the size of your fingertip. Any object not specially reinforced would be crushed instantly. Temperatures at the bottom range between just 1 and 4 degrees Celsius, nearly freezing. No sunlight reaches this depth, and no warm ocean currents can penetrate it. This is the coldest, darkest, and most silent environment on Earth. You sit inside a steel sphere smaller than a refrigerator. Outside, 11 kilometers of freezing seawater press against every centimeter of the hull. And the only sound you hear is the metal creaking under unimaginable pressure. On January 23, 1960, 2 men prepared to attempt something no one had ever done before. U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh and Swiss engineer Jacques Piccard were about to descend to the deepest point on Earth. The Trieste was unlike any submarine ever built. Above sat a massive tank holding 85,000 liters of gasoline for buoyancy. Below hung a steel sphere 12 centimeters thick, barely 2 meters wide. No cameras, no robotic arms, no rescue system, just 2 men and a mission. The descent lasted 4 hours and 47 minutes in total darkness. Walsh and Picard could see nothing, only hearing the water, each other's breathing, and the creaking of metal. Then, at 9,000 meters, a terrifying bang echoed through the hull. A plexiglass window on the outside had cracked under pressure, shaking the entire vessel. Walsh and Picard faced a choice: ascend immediately or continue descending deeper. They looked at each other and made their decision: to keep going. At 1:06 p.m., the Trieste touched the bottom of Challenger Deep at a depth of 10,916 meters. The temperature inside the cabin had dropped to just 7 degrees Celsius. Exhausted and shivering, they had only 20 minutes before beginning the ascent. Picard reported seeing a flatfish about 30 centimeters long gliding slowly across the sediment. Then small shrimp appeared, movement, life. Perfectly ordinary life at the very bottom of the abyss. Challenger Deep was not empty. Something was living there. After that historic dive, no one returned to Challenger Deep for more than 50 years. The Trieste carried no cameras and collected no samples. 2 eyewitness accounts were the only evidence. The US Navy abandoned the effort. The cost was enormous, and the scientific return seemed too small. Scientists shifted to using remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs. These machines could send back images and samples, but they lacked the flexibility of human exploration. The Mariana Trench remained largely forgotten until a Hollywood director entered the story. On March 26, 2012, filmmaker James Cameron climbed inside the submersible Deep Sea Challenger. The director of Titanic and Avatar was about to descend alone to the deepest point on Earth. This time, there were cameras, scientific instruments, and tools to truly study the abyss. Cameron sat inside a cockpit so cramped he could barely stretch his arms. A window 24 centimeters thick separated him from the crushing pressure outside. After 2 hours and 36 minutes, he became the 3rd human in history to reach Challenger Deep. Cameron described the landscape as desolate, almost like the moon. No large animals appeared, yet the sediment samples he collected revealed 68 previously unknown species of microbes. Cameras also captured microbial mats thriving through chemosynthesis, life that survives without sunlight. In May 2019, American explorer Victor Vescovo reached a record depth of 10,927 meters. But he did not stop after one dive. Vescovo returned repeatedly, allowing humans for the first time to systematically explore the deepest part of the ocean. Vescovo's team discovered rocks coated in vivid yellow and orange minerals, evidence of deep geological activity. They also identified 4 new species of amphipods, shrimp-like creatures perfectly adapted to the crushing pressure of the abyss. Then, Vescovo saw something no one wanted to find in the deepest place on Earth. Resting on the floor of Challenger Deep, nearly 11 kilometers below the surface, was a plastic bag and candy wrappers. He later described it as the most disappointing moment of the entire expedition. Scientists brought the captured deep-sea creatures back to the laboratory and analyzed their tissues. The results were shocking. Nearly every animal examined contained microplastics. Plastic from the surface had sunk 11 kilometers down, and the creatures here are consuming it.
Here, along the sheer face of the underwater cliffs, life finds a way in the most extreme conditions on Earth.
This discovery shocked the scientific community. No part of the ocean, no matter how deep or remote, remains untouched by human activity. The Mariana Trench is not only the deepest place on Earth, it has also become a mirror reflecting humanity's impact on the planet. The Mariana snailfish is the deepest living fish ever recorded, surviving at depths beyond 8,000 meters. Its body is almost transparent, lacking a swim bladder and built mostly from soft cartilage. It represents the absolute limit of vertebrate life on Earth.
Yet home to some of the planet's most unreal ecosystems.
Giant amphipods, relatives of shrimp, can grow up to 18 centimeters in the Mariana Trench. Scientists discovered they reinforce their exoskeletons with aluminum, something no other known animal does. They extract the metal directly from deep-sea sediments.
Where the sun fears to tread, lives the giant isopod.
The Dumbo octopus, named for its ear-like fins, is one of the deepest living octopus species known. Unlike shallow water octopuses, it lacks an ink sac. At these depths, predators are rare, so elaborate defense mechanisms are unnecessary. Xenophyophores are the largest single-celled organisms ever discovered. A single cell can grow to the size of a tennis ball. Spread across the ocean floor like alien flowers, they challenge many biological assumptions about the limits of life. Between August and November 2021, China's Fendaosia submersible completed 33 dives into the Mariana Trench. Scientists collected more than 1,600 sediment samples and discovered over 7,000 microbial species, nearly 89% of them previously unknown to science. Thousands of tube worms and giant clams form dense colonies on the trench floor, resembling an underwater forest. These organisms survive through chemosynthesis, using chemical energy leaking from the Earth's crust instead of sunlight. It is the deepest chemosynthetic ecosystem ever discovered. The Mariana Trench teaches us something extraordinary. Life does not require sunlight, comfortable temperatures, or the conditions we once believed were essential. But it also teaches us something else. No place on Earth is truly beyond the reach of humanity. Even 11 kilometers beneath the ocean's surface, our presence can be found. The darkest place on our planet is still waiting to be explored. The only question is this: when we return, will we bring science or more pollution?